Under the blistering suns of Zarathon, a world cloaked in the hues of a perpetual dusk, the marketplace throbbed with the eclectic sounds of 100 alien species. Colors swirled and exotic scents melded in the hot air. Amid this kaleidoscope of chaos, one figure stood out starkly. A teenage alien girl with skin that shimmered like the starscape above. Her name was Lyra, and her eyes, wide and iridescent, scanned the bustling crowd nervously. Clad in a tattered robe that did little to shield her from the harsh glares of potential buyers, she stood beside her father, Tarnak, whose grim countenance spoke volumes of his desperation. A notorious gambler, Tarnak had squandered more than just his fortune. Today, he risked his own flesh and blood. "Step up! Behold the jewel of the Faltharian skies!" Tarnak's voice boomed over the din, drawing curious glances and speculative murmurs. Lyra's heart sank with each call, her fate auctioned to the highest bidder. Among the crowd, a lone human, Jacob Wells, stood out not just by his species, but by his demeanor. A former spacefarer turned interstellar mediator. Jacob had seen many corners of the galaxy, but the sight of a young girl being sold into servitude stirred a deep fury within him. His weathered face, lined with the tales of space and sorrow, tightened as he approached the platform. "How much for the girl?" Jacob's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it that made even Tarnak hesitate. "Ah, a human with a taste for exotic pets, I see." Tarnak sneered, misreading Jacob's intent. "She's skilled in many tasks, a quick learner and compliant. A rare find indeed." Jacob's eyes never left Lyra, who looked back at him with a mix of hope and fear. "I'm not looking for a pet. I'm looking for someone to save. How much?" The transaction was swift. Money exchanged hands, more than Tarnak had dared to dream of, and with it, Lyra's chains of servitude were unshackled. She stood, trembling, beside her new guardian, unsure of whether her situation had improved or just shifted hands. "Thank you, sir," she murmured, her voice a whisper against the clamor of the market. Jacob nodded, his gaze softening. "No child should be treated as merchandise. From now on, you're not a slave. You're under my protection." As they walked away from the market, Lyra cast one last glance back at her father, who was already lost in the crowd, likely squandering his new wealth. The pain of betrayal lingered, but the promise of freedom glimmered faintly on the horizon. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked, her voice still tinged with uncertainty. "To my ship. We're leaving this planet. I have friends in the Alliance who can help us. You're safe now," Jacob assured her, his voice a steady beacon in her storm-tossed world. The path to Jacob's ship wound through narrow alleys and bustling thoroughfares, each step taking Lyra further from her past. As the ship, a sleek vessel named the Deliverance, came into view, Lyra felt a surge of wonder. The ship represented more than just a means of escape, it was a gateway to a new life. Jacob noticed her awe and smiled. "Ever been on a spaceship before?" Lyra shook her head, her eyes wide. "Only in dreams." "Well, dreams have a funny way of turning into reality around here. Welcome aboard, Lyra." As the spaceship lifted off, leaving the speckled lights of Zarathon fading in the distance, Lyra watched the stars that had once seemed so distant grow closer, each one a silent witness to her newfound freedom. The universe, vast and filled with unknowns, awaited her, and for the first time in her life, she faced it not with dread, but with anticipation. Lyra's first night aboard the Deliverance was restless. Her cabin, though modest, was a sanctuary compared to the dusty corners of Zarathon's markets. As the silence of space enveloped her, the echoes of her father's betrayal haunted her thoughts, mingling with the hum of the ship's engines, a constant reminder that her life had irrevocably changed. Jacob noticed Lyra's subdued mood over breakfast in the small galley. The metal table was set with a modest spread of extraterrestrial fruits and synthesized proteins. He watched her pick at her food, her thoughts obviously miles away. "You'll have to eat more than that," he said, breaking the silence. "Space travel requires strength, both mental and physical." Lyra looked up, her eyes meeting his. "I never asked for this. Space travel, I mean. What if I'm not cut out for it? Jacob leaned back, considering her words. Nobody's born ready for the stars, Lyra. But you learn, adapt, and overcome. That's what makes us fit for the stars. Our resilience. Lyra nodded slowly, digesting his words alongside the unfamiliar food. The ship lurched slightly as it entered hyperspace, the stars stretching into lines as they sped through the cosmos. Jacob explained the mechanics of hyperspace travel, his voice steady and informative. Lyra listened, the scientist in her sparked to life by the complexities of interstellar physics. Later, Jacob introduced her to the ship's AI, Vega, a sophisticated system designed to manage everything from navigation to life support. Vega's voice was soft and feminine, a comforting sound in the vast emptiness of space. Hello, Lyra. I am here to assist you. If you need anything to make your stay more comfortable, do not hesitate to ask, Vega offered. Curious, Lyra interacted with Vega, asking questions about the ship and its destinations. Through Vega, she accessed visual archives of other worlds, their landscapes and cultures unfolding before her eyes. The more she learned, the more her apprehension gave way to a cautious fascination. As days turned into weeks, Lyra's knowledge grew. She spent hours with Jacob in the cockpit, learning to navigate the constellations. The controls of the ship became less intimidating, each button and lever a friend rather than a foe. Her confidence burgeoned with every lesson, the void of space becoming less of a prison and more of a canvas. One evening, as the Deliverance orbited a gas giant, its rings casting shadows over the hull, Jacob shared stories of his past, a former combat pilot turned peacekeeper. His tales were full of narrow escapes and daring rescues, the stars not just points of light but backdrops to his adventures. I made a lot of choices, some good, some bad, but each choice led me here, Jacob confessed. His gaze was distant, lost in the memories of other lives saved and some lost. You'll make your choices too, Lyra. They'll lead you to places you can't even imagine now. Lyra felt a kinship with Jacob, their shared experiences of loss and change bonding them. She realized that her journey was not just about escaping her past, but about shaping her future, one decision at a time. As they prepared to land on Elysian, a planet known for its alliance-friendly stance and technological marvels, Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation. Elysian was a hub for interstellar diplomacy and a beacon of technological progress, a place where a former slave might forge a new destiny, far from the shadow of her father's choices. The descent into Elysian's atmosphere was smooth, the planet's sprawling cities glowing like a network of jewels. Lyra watched, her heart a mix of nerves and excitement. This world was her first real test, her first step into a broader universe. With every planetfall, Lyra was not just farther from Zerathon. She was closer to becoming the architect of her own fate, her old life a distant star, fading into the darkness behind her. As the Deliverance touched down on Elysian's surface, the airlock hissed open, revealing the bustling spaceport of Helion Prime. The city was a marvel of architectural synthesis, where organic structures seamlessly integrated with advanced technology. Skyscrapers spiraled towards the sky, their surfaces gleaming with bioluminescent algae, and the streets buzzed with hover vehicles and diverse alien populations. Lyra stepped onto the solid ground, her senses assaulted by a symphony of sights, sounds, and smells. The air was crisp, tinged with the electric scent of ionized energy fields. Jacob led the way, his familiarity with such environments clear in his confident stride. First thing on the agenda, Jacob announced, is to get you registered with the Galactic Alliance. It's necessary for your protection and freedom. They navigated through the vibrant districts of Helion Prime, heading towards the Alliance's local office. Lyra observed the locals, beings from different star systems mingling in harmony. Her previous isolation on Zerathon seemed like a life lived in another universe altogether. Inside the Alliance office, they were greeted by Administrator Naira, a cyborg with polished chrome limbs and a warm, holographic smile. Welcome, Lyra. Jacob has briefed me about your situation. We're here to help. Lyra underwent the formalities of registration, her identity now recognized and protected under Alliance law. Naira briefed her on her rights and the support systems available, from educational programs to employment opportunities. Consider this a new beginning, Nera said, her eyes glowing with a soft blue light. You're no longer bound by the chains of your past. With her new status, Lyra felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She was officially a free individual, her future hers to shape. Jacob suggested they explore more of Elysian to better understand the world and its cultures. They visited the Great Library of Elysian, a vast repository of knowledge with archives that stretched back millennia. Lyra was enthralled by the holographic records and ancient artifacts, each piece a window into the history and diversity of the galaxy. Knowledge is the gateway to understanding, and understanding is the key to coexistence, Jacob explained as they roamed the aisles. Lyra absorbed every word, every fact, her mind alive with possibilities. As dusk fell, they attended a public lecture on astrobiology, where scientists discussed the ecosystems of newly discovered planets. Lyra's imagination soared as she learned about exotic life forms that thrived in environments unlike anything found on Zerathon. Later, walking through Helion Prime's garden district, Lyra and Jacob discussed her interests and potential career paths. The gardens were a tranquil oasis, with flora from hundreds of worlds, a testament to Elysian's commitment to biodiversity and ecological harmony. I think I might like to study astrobiology, Lyra mused, her gaze lingering on a luminescent fern from the moons of Minara. Or maybe something in cultural anthropology. There's so much to learn about the beings in the galaxy. Jacob nodded approvingly. Both are noble pursuits. The Alliance Academy here on Elysian is one of the best places to start. They offer scholarships. You could apply. That night, as they returned to the Deliverance, the sky above was a tapestry of stars, each one a story, each story a beacon of light guiding her path. Lyra felt a profound sense of potential, her earlier trepidation replaced by a resolute determination to embrace the vastness of her new world. Her life had been a closed book, its pages bound by fear and suppression. But now it was wide open, each day an opportunity to fill those pages with knowledge, understanding, and maybe, one day, contributions of her own to the great narrative of the galaxy. Lyra's ambitions crystallized as she stepped through the gleaming gates of the Alliance Academy. The sprawling campus was a nexus of innovation and scholarship, with students from countless worlds exchanging ideas and dreams. Enrolled in a dual program of astrobiology and cultural anthropology, Lyra dove into her studies with an insatiable thirst for knowledge that was both a shield and a beacon. Her days were dense with lectures and lab sessions, her evenings spent in the vast digital archives or discussing theories with her peers. One of her closest friends at the academy was Threx, a Delpharian whose skin changed color with his emotions, ranging from a calm blue to a vibrant purple. Threx shared Lyra's passion for learning and often joined her in spirited debates on the ecological impacts of space colonization. Jacob, meanwhile, continued his work as a mediator, but he always made time to check in with Lyra. He was not just a guardian, but a mentor, guiding her through the intricacies of interstellar politics and ethics. One particular project caught Lyra's interest, a field study on a recently contacted planet, Adraxa, known for its rich biodiversity and complex social structures. She saw it as a perfect opportunity to apply her dual expertise. With the approval of her professors, Lyra prepared for her first off-world academic mission. The journey to Adraxa was aboard a sleek research vessel equipped with the latest in astroecological and anthropological tech. Accompanied by a team of seasoned researchers and her friend Threx, Lyra felt a mix of excitement and responsibility as they approached the vibrant green and blue planet. Upon landing, the team set up base near one of the major confluences of Adraxa's sentient species, the Gharials, a reptilian race with a rich tradition of oral history and communal living. Lyra's task was to study the environmental adaptations of the Gharials and their interactions with their ecosystem, while also documenting their cultural practices. As days turned into weeks, Lyra, with her devices and drones, meticulously recorded and analyzed the data. She learned the Gharials' language with the help of translation tech, slowly earning the trust of the local communities. Her anthropological training allowed her to appreciate the nuances of Gharial culture, from their ritualistic dances to their complex family structures. One evening, as Lyra sat by the glowing waters of a bioluminescent lake, taking notes on the nocturnal behaviors of some aquatic species, she was approached by an elder gharial named Mirak. His scales shimmered under the moonlight as he sat beside her, his presence commanding yet serene. "You study us, young Lyra, as we study the stars," Mirak said, his voice deep and melodic. "What have you learned?" Lyra shared her observations, expressing her admiration for the way the gharials harmonized with their surroundings. Mirak listened intently, then offered insights into his people's philosophy of life, a balance between progress and preservation. The conversation left Lyra profoundly moved. It wasn't just the data she collected, but the wisdom she gained that enriched her understanding. This was the essence of her studies, not merely to observe but to connect, not just to learn but to understand. Back at the academy, Lyra compiled her research into a comprehensive thesis. Her findings not only highlighted the biological and social intricacies of the gharials, but also proposed conservation strategies that could be implemented across similar ecosystems galaxy-wide. As she presented her work at the end of the semester symposium, the audience was captivated by her passion and depth of knowledge. Her professors praised her innovative approach and her ability to intertwine scientific rigor with cultural sensitivity. That night, as she updated Jacob on her progress and her plans for further research, Lyra realized how much she had grown. From a scared girl sold at a market to a confident scholar making her mark on the galaxy, her transformation was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, guided by curiosity and empowered by knowledge. With her academic successes fueling her confidence, Lyra embarked on a new venture as an intern with the Galactic Environmental Preservation Council, GEPC. Here, she would apply her field research to real-world policies, shaping the conservation efforts on multiple planets. The position required her to navigate the labyrinthine politics of interstellar governance, a daunting task, but she found the complexity thrilling. The council was based on the central planet of the Alliance, Lux Prime, a hub for interstellar diplomacy and governance. Lyra moved into a small apartment within the towering eco-complex that housed the council's offices, surrounded by vertical gardens that ascended into the clouds. From her window, she watched ships from distant stars arrive and depart, each carrying delegates and diplomats. Her first assignment was to assist in drafting new guidelines for the sustainable development of mining colonies on resource-rich frontier worlds. Lyra worked closely with Dr. Helen Quire, a leading environmental strategist known for her fierce advocacy and sharp intellect. Dr. Quire became another mentor to Lyra, challenging her to think critically about the ecological footprints of space colonization. Lyra's insights, drawn from her intimate fieldwork on Adraxa, were invaluable. She argued passionately for regulations that required mining operations to fund biodiversity assessments and restoration projects. Her proposals were met with resistance from industrial factions within the council, but Lyra held her ground, supported by Dr. Quire and a coalition of environmental advocates. Amidst her policy work, Lyra continued to contribute to academic journals, sharing her findings and ideas. Her article on biocultural conservation on Adraxa, integrating indigenous wisdom with scientific practices, won an award for innovative thought in the Journal of Intergalactic Environmental Studies. Meanwhile, her personal life flourished as well. She and Threx, who had also moved to Lux Prime to pursue his studies in xenoengineering, found a shared apartment near the Academy district. Their home became a cultural salon of sorts, where friends from various disciplines gathered to discuss everything from quantum computing to the ethics of artificial intelligence and governance. During one of these gatherings, Lyra met Soren, a young diplomat from the icy planet of Frel. Soren's work involved negotiating habitat rights for displaced species, a cause that resonated with Lyra's own passions. Their mutual interests quickly deepened into a personal bond, and they spent many evenings walking through the bioluminescent parks of Lux Prime, discussing their hopes for a more just and sustainable galaxy. However, Lyra's professional challenges escalated when a powerful consortium pushed for a massive mining initiative on the untouched world of Silva, known for its unique ecosystems. Lyra saw this as a critical battle to fight, not just for Silva but for the precedent it would set. She spearheaded a campaign, leveraging her academic credentials and council position to gather support. She organized symposiums, collaborated with Sylvan activists, and authored compelling op-eds in major galactic publications. The issue became a galactic discourse, with Lyra at its center, advocating not merely for Silva, but for a new philosophy of planetary stewardship. As the council vote approached, the pressure mounted. Lyra worked tirelessly, her every moment consumed by strategy sessions and negotiations. On the day of the vote, she stood before the council, delivering a powerful speech that weaved together scientific data, ethical arguments, and the personal narratives of those who would be affected by the mining. The council chambers were silent as the vote was cast. When the results were displayed, showing a majority in favor of protecting Silva, applause broke out. Lyra's efforts had paid off, her strategies effective, her voice crucial in shaping the decision. That evening, as she celebrated with Soren, Threx, and Dr. Quire, Lyra felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had transformed from a bystander in her own life to a leader in a vast community, her impact resonant across the stars. Her commitment to blending scientific inquiry with ethical governance had not only changed policies, but had begun to change the very culture of the Alliance. As Lyra's reputation grew within the interstellar community, so did her responsibilities. Appointed as a junior advisor on the Galactic Environmental Preservation Council, her influence extended to broader and more critical issues affecting the galaxy. Her focus was now on forming a coalition for a galactic conservation treaty, aimed at protecting vulnerable ecosystems across all member planets. Her work brought her back to the Academy on Elysian, where she was invited to lead a series of workshops. Here, she shared her experiences and insights with the next generation of scholars and policymakers. Lyra's teachings were not just about environmental strategies, but about cultivating a deep-seated respect for diverse cultures and life forms. It was here, in the hallowed halls of her alma mater, where she once felt uncertain about her future, that Lyra now stood as a beacon of hope and progress. Back on Lux Prime, preparations were underway for the inaugural summit on the Galactic Conservation Treaty. Representatives from various planets and species were set to gather, each with their own agendas and expectations. Lyra, along with her team, worked diligently to draft a framework that was inclusive, yet robust enough to enforce. Soren, now a significant figure in his planetary delegation, collaborated closely with Lyra. Their relationship had matured into a partnership both personal and professional, each supporting the other's endeavors with understanding and admiration. Their evenings, once spent in theoretical debates, now often involved practical discussions about diplomatic strategies and alliance building. As the summit commenced, the vast conference hall buzzed with a myriad of languages and the subtle hum of translation devices. Lyra opened the session with a keynote speech, her voice resonant, echoing throughout the chamber. She spoke of the interconnectedness of all life forms, the shared destiny within the boundless stretches of space, and the collective responsibility to preserve the heritage of the cosmos. The negotiations were intense, with debates stretching into the late hours. Lyra navigated these with a deft touch, mediating conflicts and aligning diverse interests. Her ability to empathize with different perspectives while firmly advocating for environmental priorities won her many allies. After days of deliberation, the summit concluded with the signing of the treaty, a historic achievement that marked a commitment to planetary stewardship on a galactic scale. The treaty not only set binding environmental standards, but also established a fund to support conservation projects, financed by the wealthier planets and industries. In the wake of the summit's success, Lyra received accolades from across the galaxy. However, the true reward for her was the implementation of the treaty's provisions, as reports came in of rejuvenated planets and thriving ecosystems. Her journey came full circle when she was invited to Zerathon to oversee a restoration project. The planet had suffered under exploitative practices for decades, but with the new galactic policies, it was poised for recovery. Standing on the soil of her home planet, now looking forward to a brighter future, Lyra felt a deep connection to her past, understanding that every struggle she faced was a step towards this moment. As she watched the sun set on Zerathon, reflecting on the vastness of her experiences, Lyra realized her story was but one of many in the intricate tapestry of the galaxy. With Soren by her side, and her friends and mentors supporting her, she looked forward to continuing her work, driven not just by a duty to protect, but by a profound love for the endless wonders of the universe. In the tranquility of dusk, Lyra felt at peace, her heart as boundless as the cosmos, ready for whatever new challenges the stars might bring.